The magic of letting go, the story of a prisoner's freedom. In a small, overcrowded prison, there was a man named John. He had been locked away for over a decade, his life consumed by anger, bitterness, and regret. Every day, he replayed the events that had led to his incarceration, stewing in the injustice of his situation. His days were filled with thoughts of revenge against those who had wronged him. He clung to his hatred like a shield, thinking it would protect him from the pain of his past. For John, prison was not just a physical confinement, it was a mental prison of anger and resentment. One day, while sitting in the common area of the prison, John noticed an elderly inmate named Mark. Mark had spent most of his life in and out of prisons, yet he was known for his calm demeanor and deep wisdom. Unlike the others, Mark never seemed to show bitterness or anger. He had a quiet peace about him that intrigued John. Mark would often sit alone, reading books or meditating, while the others around him were consumed by tension and animosity. Curious, John approached him one afternoon. "Mark," he asked cautiously, "I don't get it. You've been here for decades, you've seen the worst of this place, but you never seem angry. How do you do it?" Mark looked up from his book and smiled gently. "It's not about what's happening outside, John. It's about what's happening inside. The greatest prison is the one we build in our own hearts. When you hold on to anger and resentment, you give up your freedom. No matter how many walls surround you, you will always be in prison." John frowned, skeptical. "So you're saying that if I just stop being angry, everything will magically get better?" Mark nodded slowly. "It's not magic. It's letting go. Not for them, but for you. Holding on to hatred only gives those people more control over you. The only way to truly be free is to release the pain and the anger. It's about freeing your heart." John wasn't sure if he could ever forgive those who had wronged him. His anger had become part of his identity, his way of surviving. But Mark's words lingered in his mind, and after a few days, he decided to try. At first, letting go seemed impossible. Every time John thought about the injustice of his sentence, the anger would rise again. But instead of fighting it, he began to acknowledge it, and little by little, he started to release it. He would sit in his cell, close his eyes, and picture his anger as a dark cloud. He imagined himself letting it float away, piece by piece. Weeks turned into months, and John noticed subtle changes in himself. His heart, once heavy with bitterness, began to feel lighter. He started having conversations with fellow inmates that weren't filled with resentment. He found himself laughing more, even at the smallest moments of joy. His focus shifted from the past to the present. He read books Mark recommended, and they spent time talking about life, philosophy, and inner peace. Then, one day, after what felt like an eternity of struggle and growth, John realized that the prison walls no longer held the same weight for him. He was no longer defined by his past mistakes or the people who had betrayed him. He had found a peace within himself that no one could take away. One morning, John was summoned to the warden's office. He was told that after a review of his case, he would be released early. But as John stood outside the gates of the prison, ready to walk into the unknown world, he realized that the true freedom had already come. Mark's lessons had not only helped him let go of his anger, but they had also transformed his life from the inside out. John wasn't leaving prison because the physical walls had disappeared, but because he had freed himself from the prison of his own mind. As he walked out of the prison gates, a free man, John smiled, knowing that the hardest part of his journey had already been completed. He had set himself free by letting go. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content.